Welcome to all of you. We're so glad you could join us for this 8th edition of Voices from the Field, Answering the Call to Serve, United Women in Faith and our National Mission Institutions. My name is Jessica Tulloch, and I have the privilege of working at the National Office of United Women in Faith as a liaison with our National Mission Institutions. What are the National Mission Institutions? While United Women in Faith's predecessor organizations established social service programs across the United States at the turn of the 20th century in response to the needs of marginalized and neglected communities. This included newly arrived immigrants, the working poor, the formerly enslaved, and indigenous peoples. Many of these programs survive today as independent, autonomous, nonprofit agencies referred to as national mission institutions. Today, you will hear the stories of 3 incredible women who heard a call and followed it. Each walked their own unique path, but each one was led to work with a national mission institution, or more than one, as you'll hear later. This call to serve further activated their faith and their commitment to United Women in Faith and the communities and populations we impact. Dr. KATELIN Hanson is a neuroscientist and a United Methodist deaconess who serves as Director of Operations for Community Development for All People in Columbus, Ohio. Susan STROUP is a leader in the North Georgia Conference of United Women in Faith and works as Advancement Services Coordinator at Murphy-Harpst Children's Centers in Cedartown, Georgia. She is also a United Methodist deaconess. Dr. YVETTE Richards is a United Women in Faith historian and a champion of national mission institutions. She currently serves on the boards of Cornerstones of Care and Della Community Services in Kansas City, Missouri. She served as president of United Methodist Women, our predecessor name, from 2017 to 2020. Hear their stories today of personal transformation and social transformation. Learn what keeps them motivated to do the work. Be inspired by the ways your gifts make an impact. Voices from the Field is a quarterly virtual educational series featuring leaders sharing their work and life stories. The program highlights how United Women in Faith initiatives supported by your mission giving and other financial gifts significantly improves the lives of women, children, and youth around the world. After their presentations today, we will have a few minutes for questions and answers from the audience before closing the formal program. For those who would like, you are welcome to stay after the close of the program to join a breakout room discussion with one of our 3 speakers. Without further ado, I give you Deaconess KATELIN Hanson.
Thank you so much, Jessica, and thank you to United Women of Faith for the opportunity. I'm going to take a moment to share my screen with you. I am Deaconess KATELIN Hanson, coming to you from Columbus, Ohio, United Methodist Church for All People and Community Development for All People, a proud United Methodist Women in Faith National Mission Institution. We're so very grateful for you all and the opportunity to share, and I'd love to tell you a little bit about who we are and my own journey in this space. For us, our origin story comes from the United Methodist Free Store. All of our programming, and indeed, as I'll speak to, even our church comes from the United Methodist Free Store. The Free Store was founded in 1999 to help distribute clothing and household items to our community. And we give away about $2 million worth of free items to the community each year, which helps folks save money on rent and utilities so that they can redirect their funds to a place that they're able to use in their best ability. But more than the stuff itself, we are building relationships with our community through the folks that shop there. People come day in and day out, and we greet each other, we worship with one each other, we build relationships with each other. Folks are welcome to shop every single day, and there are no qualifications to shop. So I have items from the free store. Volunteers are shoppers, shoppers are volunteers, and beautiful community begins to form when we're in relationship of mutuality and accompaniment every single day. Now, out of the free store came a core philosophy and theology for us that we call the divine economy of abundance. When we first opened the doors of the free store, people like to shop. They really like to shop for free. So they kept coming back, which is exactly what we wanted as we began to build relationships with each other. And human fear and perception of scarcity can quickly set in. And we worried, what if we run out of stuff? And I'm here to tell you, in the 20 years we've been in ministry, we've never run out of stuff, not even close. And it challenged us to wonder, what if we worship a God of abundance, not a God of scarcity? We see in the beginning of the Bible, there's abundance. And when we turn to the final pages in Revelation, there's abundance as well. But in the middle, human fear and greed and perception of scarcity can cause all sorts of problems in all the other books of the Bible. But we believe if we're generous with one another, it triggers a return to the abundance that God intended. And so as we built relationships in the free store, as we leaned into this divine economy of abundance and asset-based community development, a beautifully rich, diverse community began to form. And it was out of this free store that United Methodist Church for All People was founded. The congregation is about half white and half Black, which reflects our surrounding neighborhood. It's about 60% at or below the poverty line, with the other 40% being middle and upper class folks. And so it's not uncommon to have someone who lives in a house that's worth $1 million sitting right next to somebody in worship that doesn't know where they will sleep tonight. And this rich, authentic community then gave birth to all the other ministries that have followed. It's also my story of how I got connected. I moved to Columbus to pursue a PhD in neuroscience, and the plan was to go into academia, to be a NIH researcher at some university. But God had other ideas. I became captivated by the worshiping community and the ministries of Church for All People. I finished the doctorate, and yet there was a tug on my spirit to stay in that place. I started part-time at Church for All People as minister of music, and then full-time with the National Mission Institution Community Development for All People, and now serve as director of operations. But it was part of that journey that I felt a tug to become a United Methodist deaconess. For me, it was an opportunity to have a full-time vocation at the intersection of faith and justice. And now as a deaconess, I'm able to serve on both sides of the house, helping the church cast the vision for all the ministries that we set forth, and helping the nonprofit execute that vision into every new initiative that we launch. And so I'm going to take a moment to talk about some of those ministries that we now have. One of our largest is around affordable housing. We have transformed our community with new places to live. 1 in every 4 homes in our census tract has been touched either by gut rehab, new build, rental, home ownership, and we've transformed entire blocks from blight into the shining light of Jesus Christ. We believe housing is a vaccine, and it's a key social determinant of health that undergirds health and wellness for all of God's people. We are now deeply committed to creating a community that neither has blight and vacancy nor gentrification and displacement, but a broad plateau of mixed income, opportunity-rich community where everyone who wants to stay can afford to stay. And we're creating a thriving, vibrant neighborhood together. It's also a classic example for us of asset-based community development. We believe that everything in God's hands is an asset, never a deficit. And it's not that we ignore the problems, but that we insist that God will take anything around us for the good. So we know that our community had homelessness. We know that our community had vacant, blighted houses. We knew that our community had joblessness. But what if in God's hands, those things themselves are opportunities and assets? So the vacant house is a place somebody could be living. The unemployment means there's a ready workforce that we can put to work fixing up the house. And then if we put the time and money into the house, the homelessness is absolutely an asset because we have to have somebody living in the house. And this is very much the philosophy with which we do all of our work. We carry on the legacy of the Southside Settlement House, just a couple of blocks from where the church stands today. We run programs that have direct lineage from the deaconesses that founded that mission these years ago. One that I will talk to you about is our Healthy Eating and Living program. We offer classes for healthy cooking and exercise, and these opportunities have been made possible time and again by mission giving from United Women in Faith. I want to show you our Heal Fresh Market, which is another classic example of the divine economy of abundance. Here you see we distribute fruits and vegetables to our community, fresh produce, healthy food, because we know that nobody wants to be hungry. Everyone wants healthy food to eat. Never buy into the notion that just because you're poor, you don't want to eat healthy, but access can sometimes be a challenge. When you have to walk across town to get to a grocery store, it will always be cheaper and easier to buy a packet of Kool-Aid than a gallon of milk. When you have to ride the bus to get where you're going, it will always be cheaper and easier to buy a bag of potato chips instead of a sack of potatoes. But a wise man once said, "Who among you would give your child a stone when he asks for bread?" And indeed, all people want to give good food to their children. All people want to live healthy. All people want a long life of health and wholeness. The challenge for us was this fresh market was only open a couple of times a week. We were proud to say we were serving about 200 people each week to get fresh produce. The challenge was also that there was a narrow front door, and while we were receiving free donations of food from the Mid-Ohio Food Collected, they would deliver it to us in a truck, but the forklift couldn't fit through the front door. And so we had volunteers from United Women in Faith and others coming to diligently help us schlep all the produce through the front doors, whether it was sleeting or snowing or raining. The other challenge we had was that even while we were distributing fresh produce across the street, there was a drive-through beer store that was distributing unsavory and unhealthy foods, beer, liquor, potato chips, other things right across the street from us. But it turns out in God's things, each of these are an asset and an opportunity. It turns out a drive-through beer store is perfect for distributing free produce. It has garage doors that we could open and the forklift could deliver the food onto the shelter of the roof. We still have volunteers who help us stock the shelves like a normal grocery store, but they can do it out from the elements. A drive-through beer store also came with a whole wall of refrigeration that allowed us to take additional produce, keep it fresher longer. And now we distribute 300 to 400 food to 300 to 400 people every single day. We're the largest distributor of free food in Central Ohio and top 20 in the country. And the point is this: it's all healthy fruits, vegetables, and produce. Everyone wants to eat healthy. And so we transformed this drive-through beer store from blight into the light of Christ one more time. It's a gathering space, it's a welcoming space, and it offers free, healthy foods to all. We then invite folks to be in a journey with us to health and wholeness through our cooking classes, exercise classes, and healthy living coaching. So we're grateful for the opportunity of ministry of the mission dollars that have led to this place. I also want to highlight our Thrive to Five initiative, which is also a result of United Women in Faith mission giving. We found out that babies in our community are at high risk of dying too young. We know that infant vitality is deeply affected by the social determinants of health, stable housing being the biggest one. If one does not have stable housing, who knows if baby is alone on their back in the crib? Who knows if they're getting their well child checkups, and if mothers are getting their postnatal visits and staying healthy. And so for us, we had another deaconess on staff, Deaconess Sue Wolf, who has a healthcare background, and she asked the question, what is the asset-based approach? While the city and county were struggling to find their way forward, we simply started hosting first birthday parties, celebrating the babies that made it to day 366 who had reached the goal. And it has everything that a birthday party should have: cake, balloons, and music. And it's a resource fair. It has information on safe sleep for babies, alone on your back in a crib. It has information on smoking cessation and how to connect with your managed care provider, how to access an OBGYN. And the point is this: we pack our church building out with 200 to 300 people in a way that would never happen if we had a community meeting on infant mortality. If we did that, we'd get maybe 5 people to show up and none of them would actually have kids. There is an energy and a momentum to an asset-based approach to the divine economy of abundance that allows us to leverage early successes and to leverage your support into thriving, vibrant ministries that scale for years to come. We realized we had baby alumni that once they reached their first birthday, we wanted to continue to be in relationship. And so that's how the Thrive to 5 initiative emerged out of our initial first birthdays program. Our alumni babies were reaching kindergarten and they weren't ready for school. And we were learning that if you arrive at kindergarten not ready, you don't catch up. And so we helped our alumni babies with their reading skills and their early learning activities, even how to tie your shoes and how to behave in class. And so now our alumni families arrive to kindergarten ready to learn, and they don't start already behind in their education careers. From there, we have our youth development program that accompanies those children through all the way through elementary school in our all people after school program and Children's Defense Fund All People's Freedom Schools. These are delightful initiatives that are intensely grounded in our scholars being the transformation agents of their own lives and indeed of their communities. You know, students across the country, no matter their economic background, tend to lose ground on reading during the summer when they're not in school. Kids in the CDF All People's Freedom Schools actually gain ground in their reading over the summer programs. So we're proud to partner with the United Women in Faith as a national mission institution, being able to accompany our children, our youth, our families to build a mixed income, thriving community where all looks like I get briefly muted there, but at the end of my time anyway, I would like to invite all of you to reach out. We'd love to hear from you and host a visit with you. We also have the All People Conference coming up October 22nd through 24th, where people of faith from around the country will come and visit and see the many ministries that are happening here and learn how to take some of those core learnings back to their own churches so they too can experience the divine economy of abundance.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. We're so grateful for the work that you do and that you answered your call. And now we'll hear from Susan STROUP, who brings us her own story through the lens of the work of Murphy-Harpst Children's Centers in Georgia.
Hi, welcome to Voices in the Field. It is such a joy to come to you on one of our few fall days here in Georgia. In 1914, Miss Ethel Harpst was sent to a small mill village settlement house out in Cedartown, Georgia. She was working for the Methodist Episcopal Church South. Due to severe outbreaks of typhoid, TB, and flu, many children in the area were left orphaned, and they came to Miss Ethel for care. In 1924, she established the Ethel Harpst Home Orphanage with the permission of the Mission Society. Along about the same time, in 1920, Mrs. Sarah Murphy established a one-room school at the edge of Cedartown for African-American children. The outbreaks didn't escape this community either. And soon she and her husband were taking them in. In 1935, a year after Mama Sarah's only child had died, the Sarah Murphy Home was incorporated. In the 1950s, women coming to the Harpst home became curious about a sign that they saw pointing to the Murphy home. Not liking the conditions that they saw, these United Methodist women appealed to the women's division of the Methodist Church, and in 1961, the Sarah D. Murphy Home became a national mission institution as well. Talks of merging the two homes began in 1967, but it took until 1984. At the same time, the designation for the work that we were doing was changed. We were asked to change from basic care to intermediate care because so many of the children that we were serving had suffered severe emotional trauma from abuse and neglect. And those children needed to receive professional treatment in a residential setting. So who are the children and youth that we serve? Most of them have experienced numerous failed foster home placements and psychiatric hospitalization because of the likelihood of harm to themselves and others. Many have been labeled as juvenile delinquents and are considered unmanageable. However, we don't view these children like that. We don't see them as hopeless or worthless. We think we can make a difference, and we provide them with a structured environment where they can experience safety, security, and stability, often for the very first time in their lives. We serve 75 children here on our campus, and they range in age from 12 to 21. Our therapeutic foster care homes serve about 45 children, and that number will be growing as we have increased the area that we are able to serve. The overall majority of the children in our care, no matter what program they're in, is 14 to 17, not the age that many people think of for children in care. The diagnoses and behaviors that we most often see are mood disorders, major depression, bipolar, PTSD, and attention deficit and hyperactivity. The common behaviors that we work with: a lack of age-appropriate maturity, withdrawal, anger, suicidal ideation, poor boundaries, verbal abuse, aggression, and self-medication. So how do we help these children? Well, the first thing is where they live. Our residential services provides cottage living that's a lot like a dormitory, open communal spaces for the living room, the kitchen, laundry. This is where they learn what it's like to live in a functioning family setting. All the residents have their own bathroom, and most of them have their own bedroom. Day-to-day life is pretty normal with homework time, chores, movie and game nights, and bedtime. Staff are on duty, awake 24/7. So there's always somebody to help with that nightmare or that drink of water that's needed in the middle of the night. Many of our residents also have regular family visits on and off campus. For their education, we have our own York Academy. Residents here attend this school on campus. And while it's our school, it's also a part of our Polk County School District. Many of the children come to us several grades behind. Our teachers and our parapros work with each child's caseworker to develop an individualized education plan to help them catch up to grade level and then prepare them to attend school in the community when they leave our care. We also provide access to a GED track if that's more appropriate for our older residents. And our transitional living residents can also access colleges and trade schools in the community. But these residents are here for treatment services. We provide individual therapy for each and every resident. Each resident has their own therapist or psychologist that they meet with at least once a week. A paraprofessional works alongside the therapist and helps with skill development and practical application of the principles and behavior changes that were talked about in therapy. We do group therapy often on campus, centering around such topics as conflict resolution, interpersonal communication, anger management, and the development of independent living. And for those residents who have family that they hope to return to, we offer family therapy so that the family relationships can be strengthened and bettered, and so that the transition home can be successful. I mentioned that many of these children have self-medicated. They've taken illegal substances or developed drinking issues. We do offer substance abuse counseling for those. We have psychiatric assessments and medication management. And we also have a full clinic staffed with nurses and someone who is on call for those emergencies 24/7. Not only do they take care of the psychological aspect, but we have kids. They take care of the bugs that get passed around, the broken bones, the cuts, the bumps, and the bruises. But what do the kids do when they're not in school and not in therapy? Well, we have a therapeutic recreation program. Recreation therapy is structured, goal-oriented activities, or what is really known around here as playing with purpose. Children and youth learn through play. So while it looks just like it's play or downtime, there's really a lot of skill building going on. And there are plenty of staff around looking for those teachable moments when you can see the dots connecting in the children's eyes. Our recreation program provides many normal firsts that a lot of these kids may not have experienced, like learning to swim, having a birthday party. We have our own York Academy prom. They can have outings to restaurants, arts, painting a picture, or being a part of a team. These are all opportunities that enhance everything that the counselors and therapists are doing in therapy. One of our co-therapists, that we often call them, are our horses. Horses provide a wonderful therapeutic environment where we can reach even the most guarded resident. Many of these children have not experienced horses before, so their normal reactions don't work here. And we can get through and start working with the kid. Did you know that the social structure of a herd very closely imitates the structure of teams, the social structures? They travel in groups. There's somebody in charge that has just risen up to be the one you follow. It's really fascinating to watch. but it also provides a unique opportunity to learn new skills through horsemanship, groundwork, and riding, creating opportunities for success, something they can learn to do. The picture shows residents riding horses and practicing balancing skills. We had one kid here who had a severe case of Tourette's. I thought he'd never be able to balance on a horse. He proved me wrong. The Transitional Living Program offers our older residents, 15 and up, an opportunity to practice independent living skills while still having supportive adults within arm's reach. One of the losses in the systems of care for children, especially those in de facto custody, are those skills that a lot of us learn just by living in a family environment. Things that we just kind of learn by osmosis, watching our parents and grandparents do. The youth in the Transitional Living Program still attend school. They finish their education. They can also advance their education through colleges and trade schools. But they can also have a job in the community and start learning what that world of work is actually like. They learn life skills such as cooking, bill paying, banking, and time management. And then our specialized foster care program for those children who do not need a residential placement, they can go live with a very supportive, nurturing family in a home environment that gives them the chance to heal and grow and get that family experience. They participate in the day-to-day life of the family. They attend public school and youth activities, and they can even hold down a part-time job. We're known in the state for being able to place sibling groups, which reduces the trauma of an out-of-home placement. You know, I couldn't have predicted when I took this job at Murphy-Harpst 25 years ago how my life would change due to that one decision. I wasn't an active United Methodist woman. I attended occasionally, and I had played the Methodist card to get the job without really knowing a whole lot about the roots and the origins of Murphy-Harpst and what we were really all about. It didn't take me but a couple of months to figure out that God had taken a lot of what I thought were loose random threads in my life and tied them up into the absolute most perfect job for me. I learned the scope and depth of United Methodist Women, now United Women in Faith, through this job. I became an active member. I began facilitating mission studies, and eventually I served my full tenure on the district as an officer. And now I'm serving on the conference team. But there was always something else nudging at me. I wanted more. Something didn't feel complete. I knew having this job would give me an opportunity to live out my faith, but I thought there was something else. And I went down a few paths, but none of them were exactly right. The order of deaconess and home missioner had been suggested to me, but I pushed it aside. Finally, I couldn't push it aside anymore. I finally understood that God had not only created the perfect job for me, He had a purpose for me. He had a calling for me. I'm now a part of an order that challenges me every day. It challenges me to grow in my faith. It challenges me to do more. It challenges me to deepen my relationship with God. My journey's not over It's just beginning.
Thank you so much, Susan. What a joy to hear your story from beginning as a staff person at Murphy-Harpst, which led you to United Women in Faith, and then hearing the call to be a deaconess. Thank you for that inspiration. And now to close out our speakers for this afternoon's event, we have Dr. Yvette Richards.
Well, good afternoon, ladies. First, I want to thank the team of Voices for asking me to participate. My love of the National Mission Institutions has been with me from the beginning. Let's get ready for a flight. Flight 1897 is ready for flight. First class section is open for all of you. You know, we travel first class as United Women in Faith. My invitation to join this organization came from Brenda Sylvan at St. James United Methodist Church in 1987. I was invited to the School of Christian Mission in Warrensburg, Missouri. While attending, I was asked to serve as the District for Mission Representative. What is that? Well, that meant that I got to work firsthand with the mission institutions. I got to learn all about the 5 institutions in the state of Missouri. I contacted the National Mission Institutions and received what were their top 5 wish list items. I can remember contacting Spofford Home for Children, where we made blankets for children as they were newly brought into the center. I began to build relationships with our National Mission Institutions. My passion started to grow, and it just started running through me as my DNA. Well, as the national president, my gift was given back to the United Methodist Women at that time to have a deeper relationship between our national mission institutions and our local units. At that time, it was called the Yvette Kim Richards National Mission Institute Symposium. We gathered in Columbus, Ohio, right before the assembly. Well, I want to take you on a journey because I was asked to share with you my passion and my travel. I was blessed to travel to 48 of the 90 National Mission Institutions. Buckle up, ladies, we're getting ready to travel. We're going to go from the West Coast to the East Coast. We're going to go from north to south on the express lane. Well, flight 1987, our first stop is in Honolulu, Hawaii at the Susanna Wesley Community Center. This center is built for people learning automobile repairs and skills, and they have a 900-room housing center that they provide a food pantry. Well, come on, let's go back to the lower 49, as they would say. We're going to stop in California, the Toberman Center. It's called the Toberman Neighborhood Center for tutoring. I almost came home with a young child. I was doing some tutoring with a young child that afternoon, and they were like, Yvette, he took to you. I said, no, my luggage, I just can't take anyone back with me. But I was so thrilled to see how we are connecting with children of all ages, helping them with after-school program. Let's travel a little bit south of California. We went to the Calexico Neighborhood House. Now, this home that we have, ladies, is magnificent. It's a home, it's a safe haven for women coming out of domestic violence. And little did I know, while I was in Calexico, I would see a real live transaction of a woman escaping from Mexico, spending the night at a fast food restaurant and contacting our center the next morning. I got to go over to the home and meet her and to hear her story. And we both ended up crying because she just could not thank, at that time, the United Methodist Women enough for having a safe haven for her to escape from the domestic violence that she was receiving from her husband. Well, many of you know that I was a catastrophe adjuster, so we're going to travel down south. I was blessed when I was working in Amarillo, Texas, to hook up with Pam Zawicki from the Amarillo Wesley Center. She served on the board. She was like, Yvette, come visit while you're here working. So I took an extended lunch and went over and met the director and saw their award-winning wrestling program. As you know, our National Mission Institute has to find out, how do we connect with each community? We're not a cookie cutter organization. We pride ourselves on what is going on in that community. In Amarillo, it was the wrestling program. Let's travel a little bit up north to Little Rock, Arkansas. They have a uniquely designed outdoor space for children with special needs, Camp Aldersgate, the only one that we have. It is fabulous. Up north in Minnesota, we have Emma Norton. It's a transition home for women. And they have their own United Women in Faith unit. I was able to sit with them during a meeting. We're going to travel south real quick to Columbia, South Carolina, Killingsworth. It's a home for women. Now, I got contacted from a unit in Wyoming saying, Yvette, we don't have any national mission institutions. What do I do? Any of the 90 national mission institutions, regardless of where they're located in the United States, you can connect with them. So I connected a Wyoming unit with Killingsworth Home in South Carolina. Now we're gonna have to travel down to Georgia because you know that's where my parents lived. Now, Columbus, Georgia, Open Door has an amazing shower program for the homeless. But in Savannah, Georgia, the Wesley Community Center, every time I visit my parents there, I would stop in to see what they were doing. I want you to understand, not only do we have 90 national mission agencies, but we're about education. And I got to visit 4 of our colleges. Bennett College in Greensboro, North Carolina, Payne College in Augusta, Georgia, Clark University in Atlanta, Georgia, and Houston-Tillotson in Austin, Texas. Last but not least, right here in Kansas City, I am so blessed to serve on the board of Della, which is leading the way for the refugees, and Cornerstones of Care, who has embraced Spofford homes and is bringing a loving, caring space for the foster children, working on reunification with families. We have 2 new executive directors. Della has hired Ryan and Cornerstone has hired Meredith. We have a great future with our national mission institutions in Kansas City. Well, in 2019, while I was working on my doctoral program, I had to select an organization with a historical presence that has made a great impact. You already know it, ladies. I selected the United Methodist Women. My only challenge was, how do I keep all that we have done to 25 pages? I think I did it. Remember, ladies, our pledge that we make at the beginning of the year, those funds go to ensure that all of our national mission institutions are up and running, and our programs that you've heard from our 2 wonderful deaconess have an opportunity to thrive in their community. So when you make your pledge, remember our national mission institutions. Ladies, I want you to remember, we serve, we advocate, we make a difference. And the best part is building the relationships and fellowships. We are a wonderful sisterhood of grace. So as your flight takes off in the work that you do for United Women in Faith, always remember, we're called by God. We're God's precious daughters. So take flight. I'll see you out there. And always remember, you are a United Woman in Faith, and I am proud to be a United Women in Faith member. Thank you. The flight has landed safely. Thank you so much for your time today. It has been a joy and a blessing.
Thank you so much to our presenters, Yvette, Caitlin, and Susan, for sharing all this great information. We have a few minutes for question and answers. If you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat if you have already been shared during the program. So I'll start with some that have already come to me. And as you think of more, just put them in the chat. If we don't have time for all the questions, there will be an additional 20 minutes after this where you can go visit in a breakout room the different speakers and ask questions there. So the first question I saw in the chat was for Susan. The question is, do you allow internships, paid or unpaid, for people pursuing degrees in behavioral science?
Yes, we do. And also in recreation therapy, we do. And in fact, several have turned into full-time employees.
Wonderful. So if someone wanted to pursue that, they could contact or visit the website, contact you.
Yes, either one.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Great. The next question, what is the HEAL initiative and what does HEAL stand for?
Thank you. I appreciate the question. HEAL is an acronym that stands for Healthy Eating and Living. And so it's all encompassing around the food we eat and cook, to our exercise, to our mental health practices. And it's the umbrella program over the Fresh Market and many other opportunities.
Great, thank you. This question is for everyone, or any of you can answer this question. It is, if you had 15 minutes to speak with your elected representatives, what are the urgent needs that you would flag? Whoever wants to go first, please feel free.
This is Yvette. I will go. Thank you for that question. If I had 15 minutes, I would address the issues that we have with United Women in Faith around the issues of women, children, and youth. So I would look to see what is going on in our particular state and take that information to them directly. And when we have legislation day here in the Missouri conference, we bring the issues that come from national office that affect women. What is currently being presented, what is currently being pushed out, what is currently being supported.
For me, first of all, I think I would thank them for the work they did this year to pass House Bill 1013, which is a major mental health initiative here in the state of Georgia. While many states are lacking in mental health care, Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi tend to be especially lacking. But I would also encourage them to pour more money into child development, child care, placement services, because again, those three states fight for the bottom in inadequate child care. We desperately need more funding.
We're grateful in the state of Ohio to be one of the states that engages in Medicaid expansion. And that's been a huge opportunity for our community. No one has to worry about coverage and access to healthcare. It's made our jobs as a national mission institution easier to help the community. And we know there's been dividends in the overall health. So I will always thank and advocate that continues. Aside from that, to be honest, I think we would prioritize issues of redistricting and voting access, because we find that undergirds so many other issues that affect our community. Our area is heavily gerrymandered, probably not unlike some of your areas, and that ties the hands of so many of our politicians and silences the voice of our community in a way that we find then has a ripple effect on health, education, and all the other issues that we care about.
Thank you. Another question for Yvette. That was an amazing trip that you took us on. United Women in Faith, as you shares, connects women to act boldly for justice and transform communities. Tell us how we can put this into action through our engagement with national mission institutions.
Okay, my goodness, Megan, thank you. You know, I love that. You know, I love that. First and foremost, I think what our women need to do is visit your national mission institution in your area. First of all, get a group of ladies to go visit, contact the executive director, because every national mission institution should have a United Women in Faith on their board. You should have a representative on your board. So you want to find out who that board member is and get with them and say, we want to come for a visit. And then you need to find out what is that issue for this particular national mission institution. Not what we think, but what they have. Now here at Della Lamb, theirs is the refugees that they're working with right now. So we have been working with them to ensure that they have the correct documentation, enough staff. And so we're working to make sure that they have that. With Cornerstones of Care, we are making sure, because of the regulations in Missouri are not up to par as per se as children being a priority. So working with them to find out what legislators sit on what committees. So when we go to legislative event, we will make sure we invite them to the breakfast, have our documentation ready, and have any letters that we need to sign to move any action forward. So it's finding out, number one, who is the United Women of Faith representative on that board. Secondly, finding out what the issue is for that particular institution, and then finding out what the need is. And there you will form a game plan. And you can always use the information that's on our website to print that is free under our action tab or our alert of what is going on, and information that they need to know how strong United Women in Faith are, not just by that district, but when we come together as a conference and a jurisdiction nationally, we make an impact. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. And relating to that, and maybe to all of you, a question: if someone has a couple of months to volunteer, is there a way for them to engage with the national mission institutions?
Absolutely. If you would like to volunteer with your national mission institution, I would contact the executive director, because a lot of them have a director or a coordinator for volunteers, because we all don't want to rush over there at one time. They have different activities and different events during the year that you can sign up so that they can have adequate space for you to volunteer in a organized manner.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I would love to continue because I have more questions on my personal list, but I know we need to wrap this part up so we can go to the breakout rooms. So I will pass it to Jessica, who is going to explain how the breakout rooms will work. And thank you all for sharing your answers just now.
Thank you. Before me, we'll actually have Cynthia Reeves, our National Vice President.
Yes. Oh, KATELIN, Susan, and Yvette, thank you. We're so grateful for you, for your work with and passion for the national mission institutions, and for all of you participating today that serve on national mission institutions boards, and you volunteer, you are promoters for their work and the importance of mission giving. We thank you for caring forward the vision of the women that founded United Women in Faith. National mission institutions located across the U.S. are supported by United Women in Faith's national office through the grants and technical support like training for staff and boards and member involvement. And United Women in Faith members serve as volunteers on board of directors of national mission institutions. And as you've heard today, the national mission institutions have the power to inspire women to become advocates for justice issues confronting our local communities. They are champions for children's rights and care and innovative nonprofit leaders. United Women in Faith supports women as they make this journey of faith, answering the call to serve wherever they may find themselves. This is all made possible through your gifts of undesignated giving. Both in 2021 and 22, undesignated gifts to United Women in Faith provided more than $1.3 million in grants to national mission institutions. And that's almost 3 million over the 2 years. And in 21, those grants assisted at least 40,591 women with services such as food assistance, transitional housing, and job training. And your mission giving served more than 14,520 children and youth in 2021 with after school and summer programming, mental and physical health services, early childhood education, food assistance, and more. These are just some of the data that show the impact of our gifts. Without undesignated giving of our members, this would not be possible. Undesignated financial gifts allow the national office the flexibility to respond in time of crisis and direct resource where and when they are most needed. So be sure to fulfill your pledge. Make sure you give to undesignated giving. By doing that, you are supporting all of the national mission institutions. And that is a gift to be proud of. You may use the QR code on your screen to direct your gift to our online giving page or the link posted in the chat box. And if you're a member of United Women in Faith, you're able to give credit to your conference when you make that online gift. And if you are not a member of United Women in Faith, but want to support this work, you may also give a gift using the link and the QR code on the screen. The nearly 90 national mission institutions continue to empower women, care for children, educate youth, house the houseless, provide sanctuary to the abused, advocate for social justice, create economic opportunities, and change neighborhoods. None of this would be possible without faithful giving of time, prayers, talents, and financial gifts to United Women in Faith. I thank you for all you do. Join me in doing more. And now I'll pass it back to the mic to Jessica Tulloch. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia, and thank you all once again for joining us today. As a reminder, this program will be available on our YouTube channel in a matter of days. If you would like to share it with your United Women in Faith sisters, your church community, and the community at large. If you enjoyed today's program, be sure to join us and enjoy the next special Voices event on October 25th at 12 noon Eastern. This program will feature leaders of the Women's Peace Dialogue platform who will provide an update about the situation in Ukraine and the impact of grants provided by United Women in Faith. This is a follow-up to our program in March about Ukraine, for those of you who were able to join us then. I see there are still some questions coming in the chat box. So once again, for those of you who are able, please stick around after the formal closing for an opportunity to discuss further with our guests in breakout rooms. And with that, our formal program has ended, and I thank you so much for coming.